Swati, we are going live now, so we can start the program.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the In Conversation series program organized by FICCI Cascade. We have with us today Dr. Muktesh Chandra, Special Commissioner of Police from Delhi. Welcome you, sir. To begin the formal proceedings of the day, can I request Mr. Anil Rajput, Chairman FICCI Cascade, to make the welcome address.
Thank you, Swati. It is my proud privilege to welcome Dr. Muktesh Chandra, IPS, Special Commissioner of Delhi Police, Mr. Deep Chand, former Special Commissioner of Delhi Police and Advisor FICCI Cascade, distinguished participants and friends. Good afternoon. Though we are a few days into the new year, it is still not too late to wish everybody a very happy new year. A year which brings with it hope and a promise of better times for humanity. The year that has just gone by will be remembered as one of the testing and survival time and the spirit of the entire human race. It was clearly unlike any other year as the COVID-19 pandemic ran its sinister and detrimental course for the most part of it. Ultimately, though, what better way to begin overcoming a crisis of this magnitude than to have a news that we have vaccine in place. That will, in all probability, halt the impact of this virus in its track. I have always maintained that COVID is quite like illicit trade, smuggling and counterfeiting, in the sense that both have utter disregard for human life. Both create economic and social problems and do not give shape to any positive development in any sphere of life. They are both indeed pure evil. Ever since the COVID situation began to cripple nations across the world, FICCI Cascade began a series of engagements with the state governments like Jammu and Kashmir, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala, and many more, with the overall objective of creating greater awareness and sensitizing the stakeholder about the nefarious agendas of the smugglers, counterfeiters, and illicit traders. They were so bereft of morals and ethics that they looked at ways and means to even exploit this tragedy of COVID-19 that had struck the world. They were of the view that because of the preoccupation of the enforcement agencies with this monumental challenge facing just about every economy, society, and nation, they would be less vigilant. I want to place it on record that this could be further from the reality. Our enforcement agencies not only put a spoke in their wheels, but remained in an absolute perfect state of alertness, thereby thwarting many attempts by these illicit traders to spread their illegal, illicit, and substandard products like sanitizers, masks, PPE kits, disinfectants, liquor, cigarette, cash, and much more. This deserves a huge round of applause for all of them. Another area which needs our special focus and unmitigated attention is that of cyber threats, which has been constantly evolving, taking advantage of online behavior and trends. This is a matter of record that during the last 9 months, what we have changed and accomplished in the digital era is perhaps we would have not achieved in 10 years. We have all learned to do our engagement virtually, which was not possible. And all these perpetrators of crime have recognized this as a very, very big opportunity. Cybercrime have been attacking the computer networks and systems of individuals, businesses, along with those of state and central governments, with e-commerce gaining greater momentum and data storage of critical and sensitive information increasingly in the cloud and drive formats. We need to put additional safety nets and layers of advanced techniques in place to ward off such attacks. That could literally wipe off years of hard work and credibility. It is therefore paramount that we stay ahead of the curve. It is with this and much more in mind that the In Conversation series has been conceptualized. It is an exciting platform of FICCI Cascade where we engage in insightful discussion and hold candid and spontaneous conversation to understand the various facets of counterfeiting, smuggling, and illicit trade with our esteemed guests. Today, we are delighted to have with us Dr. Muktesh Chandra and Mr. Deep Chand, who have, despite their busy schedule, made themselves available for this important discussion. I'm confident that this initiative's success, as over the years FICCI Cascade has been working closely with the government, industry, enforcement agencies, legal fraternity, consumer organization, and youth to create awareness about the adverse impact of counterfeiting, smuggling, and illicit trade on individual, society, and economy. One of FICCI Cascade's mandate is building the capacity of law enforcement agencies, and we have worked extensively in this area, organizing training programs and seminars for police officials and agencies across the nation. And we would continue to request everybody to join hands with us to fight this menace and make everybody a cascader so that our economy benefits, legal trade benefits. With these words, I would like to wish this seminar a great success and look forward to an engaging views and ideas from our esteemed guests. Over to you, Swati. Thank you. And Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now request Mr. Deep Chand, former Special Commissioner of Police, New Delhi, and advisor, FICCI Cascade, to make his opening statement and moderate the session, please.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you, Mr. Rajput, for giving the background of all these programs and what FICCI Cascade has been doing. A great work to curb the menace of counterfeiting and smuggling. As just now mentioned by Mr. Rajput, counterfeiting and smuggling are serious crimes damaging the world economy. While the common consumer faces health and safety issues due to counterfeit products, the genuine industry suffers huge loss and government also loses its revenue. Consequently, the welfare spending by the government also is reduced. Above all, the funds generated in the counterfeiting and smuggling activities in some cases find their way in the hands of anti-national and terrorist organizations, leading to the threat to the security of nations. The problem is growing very fast with every passing day, and the law enforcement agencies have to take this problem seriously to curb such illegal activities. To make things worse, the cybercrime is making deep inroads by facilitating the criminals to commit the crime of counterfeiting and smuggling. A big jolt to the public health, leading to grave threat to the economy has been caused by the pandemic COVID-19. The illicit traders found it as an opportunity to indulge in the production and sale of counterfeit healthcare products such as hand sanitizer, mask, PPE kits, and fake injections. The situation became more serious because of the short supply of genuine health products. Custom and police authorities pan-India seized huge volumes of fake and substandard materials, masks, hand sanitizer, PPE kits, etc. Now, with the advent of COVID vaccine in market, there is likelihood of another wave of opportunity for the illicit traders to trade in fake and smuggled COVID vaccine for those who are in hurry to get the vaccine and want to jump the queue. This would need sharp whistle by the enforcement authorities. If we have to become a powerful 5 trillion economy, as committed by our Honorable Prime Minister, then we must deal with this crime of counterfeiting, smuggling, and piracy with an iron hand. Today, we have with us a special guest, Dr. Muktesh Chandar, IPS, Special Commissioner of Police Operation and Licensing, to talk to us about role of police in curbing the menace of counterfeiting and smuggling. It is my proud privilege to introduce him to the audience. Dr. Muktesh Chandar started his career as an engineer in Bhel, Hardwar, and received several awards for improving quality and productivity. He joined Indian Police Service in 1988 and has served as head of Delhi Traffic Police, DGP of Goa, Central Director, Cyber Division in National Technical Research Organization under the Prime Minister's Office. He is a Chevening Cyber Security Fellow from Cranfield University, UK, and elected Fellow of IETE and Institution of Engineers, India. Apart from being a Bachelor of Engineering, he also holds several other educational qualifications, such as PhD in Cyber Security from IIT Delhi, LLB and Master of Arts in Criminology, Diploma in Cyber Laws and Diploma in Human Resource Management. He is a recipient of Police Medal for Meritorious Service, President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service, United Nations Service Medal, etc. He has been second time elected as President of Alumni Association Delhi College of Engineering, now called Delhi Technological University. He plays flute and mouth organ also as a hobby. Presently, he is posted in Delhi Police as Special Commissioner of Police in charge of operations and licensing. Dr. Muktesh Chandar, welcome to this In Conversation program of FICCI Cascade. We owe special thanks to you for being able to make it possible to participate in this program despite your extremely busy schedule in the face of formal education. So to start with the questioning, Dr. Muktesh, you will agree that the police is the major law enforcement agency in India, and everyone looks at police for solving all their problems. As a senior police officer with vast experience of policing in Delhi, and especially being the head of police force in Goa, Daman and Diu, which are coastal territories and are prone to smuggling, how do you assess the magnitude of problem of counterfeiting and smuggling in India and how it is affecting the Indian economy?
Sir, first of all, I would like to thank you, sir, personally, and Mr. Anil Rajput and FICCI for considering me as a speaker in conversation with you, sir. The most important part of it is, sir, that I have served under your command, and I'm so proud of it that today we are talking to each other in conversation on a such a great topic of interest. Coming to the topic, sir, the magnitude of the problem in India, as I have seen, on every road junction in Delhi, probably one can see that pirated books are being sold. Nehru Place has become notorious for pirated software. In Goa, I used to have so many these fake, I would not say fake, spurious, but branded fake liquors of international brands being manufactured. And what they do is they just add water to extra neutral alcohol and some color and some flavoring, and then the Johnny Walker black label, red label, or whatever is readily available, and automobile parts and so many other things. But The official figures I have collected from National Crime Records Bureau. In 2018, there were only 2,280 copyright cases and 155 trademark cases all over India. In 2019, they reduced because of probably COVID and all other things to 1,801 and 185. Coming to Delhi, also 2018 there were 123 cases, and 2019 there were 148 cases of Copyright Act, and Trademark Act 51 cases in 2018 and 61 cases in 2019. But as we all know, the problem is much more serious than what it appears from the official records. The actual occurrence is many more times higher, but for various reasons they are not reported, they're not registered, and also a public psyche is there that these are not serious crimes, or these are not crimes at all, and probably pirated software I have seen being used even in many government offices, sometimes even in sensitive organization where some presentation is going on and a pop-up window comes that this copy of the Windows is unlicensed. So the culture is that to buy a computer and don't buy the software. So this problem has been there, and particularly in coastal area, because I was posted in Daman and Diu and Goa. Once upon a time, these places were highly notorious for smuggling. But today, smuggling by sea route has declined because of the coastal security measures put in place. But smuggling through other channels still continue for various goods, particularly cigarettes and gold and so many other things. So in my view, the problem is very, very serious. It is not being taken seriously because of historical reasons, and also in police because the most of the times the energy is concentrated on law and order and serious investigation cases. So therefore the figures are to me appear to be low. Sir.
Yes, you're right. I think the problem is much more than what is seen in the official records. Now, do we have adequate legal framework to deal with the problem of counterfeiting and smuggling in India? The existing framework, do you think is it enough? And how is Delhi police aligned to handle the investigation and prosecution of the cases reported to it under the IP Act?
So we already have a number of laws apart from provisions in Indian Penal Code about counterfeiting, as well as for cheating and other provisions. The important acts are Trademark Act, Copyright Act, Customs Act for smuggling, and geographical indication of goods, as well as Design Act, and some of the portions of IT Act are also applicable. The local and special laws, as I mentioned, are some of the portions are cognizable, where the punishment is up to 3 years, and otherwise the civil remedies are available. And India, being signatory to World WIPO Convention and all other international legal framework in this regard, I believe that law as required is already in place. That is the application of the law, which is sometimes lacking. As far as the court cases are concerned, judiciary is highly active. In music industry, I have seen in Mumbai, because Goa, we have got a lot of these parties going on in various hotels where music is played, commercial music is played, and the agencies responsible for protecting the copyright, they are very active, and they come to police and we take adequate action. But as I was mentioning, that the courts have also been of late very active. One case which comes to my mind is of that Microsoft versus Rajendra Pawar, where about 20 lakh damages were awarded. Another one was Microsoft versus K. Mayuri case, in which about 10 lakh damages plus other costs were awarded. So these are the cases which indicate that yes, judiciary is highly sensitive in giving various orders, including Anton pillar orders. Sometimes what is missing is the sensitivity on the part of the police. The end consumer also needs a proper education. For example, most of us download music from various sources. There was a site which now has been banned because of highly sensitive cyber espionage cases, songs.pk. Now that songs.pk is a Pakistani site where all Indian songs are easily available. And another one which is the PK site has been banned once it came to the notice of Government of India, but that because of MP3 file. Along with the MP3 file, lot of malware can also be inserted into your mobile as well as computer. But another site which is still very active and I think needs to be taken down using IT Act provisions is Pendujat. Pendujat. If you type any song and you type Pendujat, the song is available free of cost from that website. Although there will be a lot of malware and all kinds of things also available. So if you are not careful, you will end up downloading a serious virus instead of a song. So this is one thing where books or in the age of internet, I would also like to say that the people have tendency to download PDF files of books. Now, along with PDF file, a serious virus can enter into your computer systems, but even that is possible, and reading of pirated books online, or downloading songs online, or even downloading movies. And there are softwares like torrent software where big movie files can be downloaded, but also at the cost of downloading some virus and all that. So probably the industry can also take note of these sites and try to take them down using appropriate court order and also under the provisions of the IT Act.
Dr. Muktesh, you will agree that a lot of money is generated in such nefarious operations of counterfeiting and smuggling. But more worrying is that there are reports of terrorist activities being financed globally by big syndicates indulging in counterfeiting and smuggling, which threatens the security of the nations. As a police officer, how do you look at it?
So terror funding by nefarious activities has been there for a very long time. We have heard about narco terrorism, where narcotics are being smuggled to fund terror activities. And then we also have counterfeiting of Indian currency notes, which are of very high quality, being done by our neighboring country. Counterfeiting of goods per se has not come to our notice, but I would like to suggest a very interesting book which I have come across, is Lifeblood of Terrorism by Vivek Chadha, published by Bloomsbury, where the entire operation of a terrorist activity at the international level, how are they being financed, funded, is there. In India, as I mentioned, that there have been several cases in which narco terrorism and counterfeiting of Indian currency has come to notice. There are a number of cases in Delhi, Mumbai, and other places. it is true that smuggling, counterfeiting, and piracy plays an important role, and big syndicates are also involved into it. The another aspect of funding of terror is now going outside the purview of internet, which we called dark net. The dark net is a place where all uh, counterfeit activities, illegal activities of various kinds take place, and the payments are being made in bitcoins, the crypto or other cryptocurrencies, and these are hidden from the normal internet activities. And in India, I have seen that the surveillance on the dark net by the investigating agencies. A lot of work needs to be done in this regard. During my Chevenix fellowship at UK, we interacted with number of police officers at the national level and London Metropolitan Police, where they were mounting a proper surveillance on this dark web, monitoring the activities, infiltrating into them, and then catching the criminals involved into various illicit activities on the dark net. Then, why, as we do in espionage, the spy operation by the police, where a shadow customer is put up to buy certain illicit weapons or drugs, and such kind of operations are missing, in my view, in India, for patrolling the dark net and also posing as a customer. Whereas in UK police, they regularly do it with international cooperation, where FBI and several other UK police agencies are involved, and the simultaneous raids are conducted in several countries together. I think such activities, even at national level, are missing, in my view, and I haven't come across many things which are done at the international level. Even in Delhi, for that matter, Delhi and NCR and other places, a lot of call centers are going on where they are committing crime against US and UK citizens, and some of them have been taken down by Noida, Gurgaon, and Delhi police in the recent past. But I think a national level crackdown is also necessary.
Dr. Muktesh, you have very appropriately mentioned about the darknet and how the cyber crime is affecting our day-to-day life, in the sense that all our trade and commerce is also falling victim to this. A number of companies in India and world over have fallen prey to ransomware. What do you suggest as preventive and post-incident measures to companies in India so that they can protect themselves against this ransomware?
Sir, I would like to explain a little bit about the ransomware. Like earlier, we had in the physical world, kidnapping for ransom, where your loved one, family members would be kidnapped, and a ransom of huge amount would be asked. Otherwise, the person will be killed. This was a very prevalent crime in the physical world. In the same way, now the data can be taken as hostage. Your data, which is lying in your computer, will be encrypted because of a malware by a hacker who has entered into your computer system. And in order to give back that data to you, they will be demanding money. And usual rate in the recent past has been about $300 to $500 paid in bitcoins. Now, if your computer is locked, if your data is locked, if your company is unable to function because of this, particularly in the critical sectors of economy, then there is no option but to pay sometimes these people and get back your own data, because you do not have made you have not made a copy of that data. And it is very surprising to note that in USA, several police departments fell prey to this ransomware, where their computers got locked, and the police itself paid money to get back the data. The municipalities paid money to get the data. Big companies paid a lot of money to get their data back. And I would like to also mention that in 2017, the entire National Health Services of UK were paralyzed by a virus ransomware called WannaCry. And for 15 days, no operations could be done in UK. The entire thing went back to slips, where the doctor would write slips. Otherwise, everything was computerized. The patient records were not available. The previous reports were not available. And this virus spread to about 100 countries. In India also, officially speaking, 40,000 computers were affected, but many say that there were many more than that. Now, this was possible because of a Windows update which was not applied, which was known. Now, this is the problem where pirated software, if somebody is using, he cannot update that vulnerability and falls prey to this. Another one was a ransomware called NotPetya. The world's largest shipping company, Maersk, 50,000 computers of this company in 130 countries got affected. The estimated loss was about 300 million. And they had no option but to reinstall every software into their computer. 4,000 server, 45,000 PCs, and 2,500 applications. They had to reinstall into all their computers worldwide, including this happened in our Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust and several other places in India. Now, if your own data is not available to you, what do you do in such a situation? The problem of paying the ransom is that the fellow is sitting somewhere in the world. You are never sure whether you pay the ransom and your data will come back to you or not. So first advice we always give is not to pay the ransom. Report it to the police immediately. Leave aside what police can do in such an operation, but at least the case should be registered and documented. For preventive aspect, the most important thing in this is to take a backup of your data regularly, so that in case the data is lost like this and it is locked, you erase the entire computer and reload the data, and the data is available to you. But when we talk of cyber security, this is not enough that only backup data is taken. An entire series of exercise have to be undertaken. First of all, appointing a chief information security officer. The way we have been appointing chief security officer, now there is a concept of chief information security officer, following certain standards. So in terms of cyber security, ISO 27001 standard is there. A lot of money has to be spent on cyber security. Internationally speaking, about 5 to 7% of the company's budget nowadays is being spent on cyber security. I do not know how much Indian companies are spending. And the most important thing is that like in Corona times, we have been saying, wash your hands and use mask and maintain social distancing and all that. In the same way, cyber hygiene is very, very important. The cyber hygiene and allocation of certain budget and resources for cyber security. This is a board level activity. Unless the chief executive officer of the company is made aware of, the board level directors are made aware, that cyber security has to be taken very, very seriously. Simply saying employees that take cyber security seriously doesn't affect much. So it is a entire series of activity, I would say, information security management system. They have to be in place depending on the size of the organization, depending on the criticality of the organization, and depending on how much digitization or how much computerization they have done. This is for the companies to think what kind of security would be adequate for them. Thank you, sir.
We have paucity of time. I'll take one more question, give one more question. And coming back to our intellectual property losses, according to you, what way companies are affected by cyber crimes in terms of intellectual property losses? Like to know.
So the most important is that nowadays the data is being kept in computers. So all the intellectual property which is there in your computers can be stolen by anyone. This is the age of corporate economic espionage, and a lot of countries have been saying, particularly USA, have been alleging against China that they have been copying their research, they have been copying their design, and to such an extent, sir, the coincidence is that a US fighter plane recently unveiled by USA, exactly replica of that is available with China. Now, many people are alleging that the entire design of that fighter plane was copied from the US servers. So this is a serious form of loss, which probably sometimes companies are not even aware of it. And if they are aware, they don't report it to the police because of the loss of reputation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muktesh. Because of your very busy schedule and you have to rush to attend some meetings, we'll have to wait for some other opportunity to talk to you and learn more about cyber crimes. On behalf of the FICCI Cascade and on my own behalf, I would like to thank you for sparing time for this program out of your busy schedule and enlightening us, the audience, on the serious problem of counterfeiting and smuggling, destroying our economy, and how we can take precautionary measures to protect our data against cybercrime. We hope the police enforcement in this area will get a priority in the days to come, and police will continue and contribute a great deal in India becoming the 5 trillion economy as planned by our Honorable Prime Minister. I would also thank Mr. Anil Rajput, Chairperson of the FICCI Cascade, for his visionary guidance to the FICCI Cascade. I must also thank all the audience who have joined us on YouTube for their interest in the subject of today's conversation. I thank Mr. Arun Chawla and other dignitaries who have been witnessing this program. Thank you all.
Sir, thank you very much. On the parting note, I would also like to mention, sir, the cyber crime and the cyber security threats not only pose a challenge, but they also give us an opportunity. And the Indian companies can make a lot of cyber security products and market them elsewhere in India as well as abroad. For example, cyber insurance firms have not come up in India, whereas in UK they are so popular. We have not heard of cyber insurance term as such. Then managed cyber security services. Small companies cannot take care of their cyber security, so somebody has to manage for them. So these are the certain opportunities I would like to mention to the FICCI to take up in future, so that cyber becomes not only a threat, but also an opportunity for the Indian companies. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Muktesh. This was would have been my last question, but because of paucity of time, I thought you have to attend an important. Thank you very much for all your submission.
Thank you.
Swati.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Chandra, for kindly attending today's conversation. Thank you, Mr. Deep Chand, for facilitating the conversation. I also would like to thank our chairman, Mr. Anil Rajput, and our Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Chawla, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much, all the audience who've been watching on YouTube. Look forward to having you again with us for our next the program in the In Conversation series. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swati.